Hello and welcome to Hammer and Dice. Today we'll be looking at Low Country Crawl by John Gregory. This zine is a Southern Gothic RPG zine, which gives readers the tools to generate a series of small, deep south coastal islands, as well as providing a series of already generated islands which have their own special unique features, and also includes a small bestiary of creatures that you can find in these islands, as well as some magic items. While this scene isn't something you typically expect from the OSR, it is definitely adjacent to it, as despite its gothic horror southern setting, it does mention fancy creatures such as dwarves that you'd expect to typically find within a D&D adjacent fantasy setting. So it is a little different and a bit more niche, but other than that I think the content within it is very appropriate for OSR style games. You can fit it in any setting where you wanted some overland adventures that evoked the deep American South, particularly along the coast, and can even be used in non-OSR rule sets such as Call of Cthulhu, so adventures that are set there have that much more depth and flavour to them. So we'll just jump right in. So as this is issue 1, which is covering barrier islands, gives a bit of description here on what barrier islands are, how to generate them. You can see here it's a D20 table where you roll for environment, size, an adjective to help you describe it, and a noun. So we'll just quickly roll up one here. So that is 5 marshland. It is a large marshland island. 12 lost. 8 toad. So Lost Toad Island, it's a large marshland island, and then when you turn the page it gives you descriptions here of the different kinds of islands you come across. So for marshlands there's low marsh, there's high marsh, there's descriptions of what a sandbar is for people who might not know, and so on, along with a short description of other here, because that has its own D20 table here. So I'll roll up on the D20 table here for what you'd have on another island. A cannibal island. Everything living on this island can only survive by eating creatures of the same type. Rations don't work unless they're made of whatever you are made of. The island itself eats other islands every few score years. Definitely some weird, unusual things in this scene, which lend it well to that kind of gonzo horror aspect of OSR games, and even add a bit of unusual flair to a more mundane gothic horror game. So then descriptions of the sizes of the islands ranging from small, medium, large, some of them as large as 60-70 square miles. Here we have a pre-made set of islands, 1, 2, 3, 4 islands, with a number of locations here, and then on the opposite page here, rules for crawling through the island, rules for time, give watches during the night, and then how you'd roll on the encounter table for every one of those sections of time. Here you can see that whenever you roll on the encounter table, you then roll here to see what omen is delivered to the players regarding that encounter. So if I flip over the page here, you can see the coastal encounters and the inland encounters. So I'll just roll up a coastal encounter. Ooh, that's an 8. So the coastal encounter would be 2d6 giant crabs with 2 hit dice each, and then the omen for that is a furious bubbling rising from the water, a faintly sweet smell. Looking back here, you'd roll a d6 to see when you deliver that omen to the players. So roll a d6 there. 2, describe the omen, give the PCs a round or 2 to pair for it. 2 to 4, that's the most common result, but the other ones give a bit more flavour and a bit more unusual circumstances to them. We then have several pages describing the different locations and the different islands. Each of these locations is packed with detail, description and interesting adventure hooks. Here we have the master shipwright Jack Argo is looking for a quality building material and is willing to build a small ship as payment for reports of exotic lumber and other valuable crafting materials. Although quite simple and straightforward, if your players get a hold of that, they'll want to travel to these other islands. They'll be investigating for these exotic woods, noting down the locations, so that when they get back to town they can report it back and can get their own boat, which will then make travelling much easier, allowing them to engage in further adventures. So as players travel south from St. Erasmus, they'll travel to Aloyfin, which is one step out from civilization. People that live here have been described to be wanting to be close to civilization but not be part of it. Next island, John Havers, is the first wild island. Every sign of previous civilization here is overgrown and crumbling. And then the final island, Wildleys, is not just furthest from civilization, but is the weirdest, and the strange things that are going on this island could be spreading to the other islands, which would draw players slowly south to it. So here we have the creature section. Not all of them are generic. In fact, I'd say most of them are unique, that you might only encounter them once or in a particular place. So here we have the Grey Man, the ghost of a young man who died on his wedding day in a freak storm, and his appearance heralds severe weather. The Boo Hag, by day a scrawny, crooked, mean-tempered old woman, and at night a bloody red, skinless spirit who attempts to steal the breath of the sleeping. Flat Eye, a cyclopean, shadowy dog that can transform its appearance into the nightmares of those that look at it, and is bound to buried treasure. And then here we have Tommy Rawbones, Bloody Bones, and Rawhead. These are all interlinked. So a Tommy Rawbones is a skeleton that has an underwater layer that attempts to drown victims and then consume them, leaving only a headless skeleton, which is a Bloody Bones. So then the Bloody Bones rises as a mindless skeleton searching for a head, and the Rawhead is a decapitated head of a defeated Tommy Rawbones, and if a Bloody Bones finds a Rawhead and puts it on, it becomes a Tommy Rawbones. So a self-perpetuating cycle of violent beheading and murder. And then we have the Low Tide Merchant. So the Low Tide Merchant is your typical roadside peddler, and they magically might have something that you need in that very specific situation that you're in. You don't always have to pay with gold, but perhaps it is better to leave without the item you need than to offer to do something for it. It has everything from a fishing net to a key to the armory, which is location, or a magic item of your choice, but which costs 50 per syllable. So the longer and more intricate the name of your magic item, the more expensive it's going to be. So we'll just quickly roll up something here. 11, Grey Man's Caravat, which can be used to summon him, so that links back to the creature we just come across there. And then finally, a list of 6 magic items which you can scatter throughout your game, which really add to the flavour of the setting. So we'll just quickly roll one of those here. 6, Sticking Chaw. This chewing tobacco is black as tar and stinks of sulphur. Partaking of this chaw is likely horrible for your teeth, but lets you spit a wad of the horrible gunk with the range of a longbow. Target stuck by the chaw must save or be held fast as a web spell until the gunk is scraped off. So there's the finest chewing chaw there. So that's Low Country Crawl. Overall, a nice little toolkit for creating island adventures in the deep coastal south. The various fantasy ties throughout it really mean it can be put in D&D or OSR settings, as well as in a real-world Southern Gothic setting. You just might have to change it a slight little bit before you use it. So just leave it on that page there for the full credits, and thank you for watching.